Hey there, this is Athril. Welcome back to my Let's Play of the Testimony of Trixie Glimmersmith. When last we left, Trixie had just had some rather unpleasant experiences with the King in Yellow. Let's continue on and see how much more trouble we get into. By the time I was ready to face the world, it was already pretty late. I needed to do something. After last night, the last thing I wanted was to be trapped inside with my mind all day. Heidi probably didn't want me to come down till about 5 as normal. I thought I'd shoot her a message and check. She phoned back. "Hey, I said I don't do messages. I like to be able to shout." She grinned scarily. I don't know how I knew that through the phone. "There wasn't any funny business last night, right? After I got you home?" I thought it'd be best not to bring up the King in Yellow, Nikita, or any other events from last night. No, it was fine, basically. Fine? Basically? You don't sound so sure, Trixie. No, I'm okay. I spilled juice on myself and got sticky. It was wild. A real tragedy. I'm really clean now, though, like a baby. Like a baby? I don't know what that even meant. Sounds terrible. Hope you're doing okay now, though. I was glad my anxiety of using phones was overriding my fear. I didn't want to put all that shit with Nikita and Heidi, not when we were already dealing with the matted figure. I'm fine. I'll come down like at 4-ish, yeah? Sure, I'll just be using a room to get the crow that lives in the vending machine out all afternoon. It's been pretty loud recently and I'm sick of it. See you later, bitch. Was that about line went dead. I fucked about the line for a while, desperate not to think too hard about last night. Eventually I ended up at Heidi's. There were a lot of black feathers lying around, the size of an ancient battle between Crow and Hyena. Hey, Trixie. You got here just to help me clean up the remains of the cozy, calm Crow. Not that the name suited them. Violent fucker. She nursed some peck marks on her face. Wait, remains? You didn't kill them, right? Heidi flashed her teeth at me. No, of course not. We just had a disagreement and they got their feathers all ruffled. They're meant to be a shop security. I let them eat vending machine snacks all day in return for nothing. They weren't exactly much help last night. They can move back in once they promise to peck the eyes out of my enemies. Come on, help me clean this up. We spent the next half hour picking up entire birds with the feathers. The cozy calm Crow was lucky it had so warm out. Nice work, Trixie. Ready to do some actual work now? Yeah, I guess. More sorting through ancient treasures? Already junk would be more accurate. None of this shit is actually real, remember? I hope for Heidi's sake this stuff wasn't real, but after reading The King in Yellow, I wasn't so sure I believed her. So, about last night, I'm kind of thinking it was one-off. I gave that creeper a pretty nasty sting, too, with the taser, right? I don't think we have to worry about it, though. We were just kind of freaked out last night and got worked up. Weirdo was probably just some junkie, you know. We can keep an eye out, but I think we're fine. I wasn't entirely sure I believed that, but I trusted Heidi's judgment. She had been in this business longer than me. Oh sure, that makes sense, I guess. I still couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the matted figure than just a weirdo and drugs. Come on, Trixie, let's get to work. We got sorting. I remain amazed quite how much stuff Heidi had hoarded. If she still could sell each thing for as much as the matted figure had handed me yesterday, I didn't blame her. Where do you actually get this stuff from? A magic car boot sale? I have a supplier. A secret one. You won't beat them. I buy crap for them and I sell it on. Think of them like a weirdo wholesaler. I considered asking if Heidi could get a hold of some kind of Nikita calming amulet, but I decided I didn't want to go into all of that. We sorted for a while. Heidi kept checking the time. I think she till I noticed and felt the need to explain. I have moonbeam business tonight, to attend to tonight. Some loser wants a book called Where's the Strange Things Are by Ilaria Den Vonnerbor or some crap. Moonbeam business? Are you sure that's a good idea for last night? It'll be fine. I can look after myself. Bad timing, really. Belle's been trying to get me to the bar tonight. She seems pretty desperate for a contact whenever I've seen her recently. I told her I have to go apologize to the CEO of Crowbar Inc. after seeing the corporation's arson threats. She believed it. That's an interesting lie. Hey, it was all true, except for the bit of the apology. The corporation took out a restraining order on me instead. I just need an excuse not to be able to go tonight, you know? As I was working through Heidi's stock, I noticed her mask on the desk where I'd seen it before. I hadn't thought much of it. Perhaps the alcohol distracted me, but looking at it now, hey boy. The mask was fairly ominous. The fur on the back of the neck stood on the end, and memories of a masquerade in the Imperial Palace floated through my mind. Memories of Casilda. Where'd you get that mask from, Heidi? It looks really expensive. Heidi looked at me quizzically. Ha! Nah, I made it myself. In the afternoon. Smashed up some plates, glued an old mask from my theater days, sprinkled some sequins on it. Looks fucking stupid, sure. But at night, with a hood, it's vaguely spooky. And that kind of stops weirdos who buy my stuff from recognizing me, so it does the job fine. Oh. Wasn't sure I believe that. Ugh. I could see the guilt on Heidi's face. She was lying. I didn't want to push her on it, but something about that mask remained deeply troubling. For its ruby eye, I could still see 1,000 reflections of Carcosa. Heidi's phone rang. She pushed me out of the office and into the shop. Sorry, Trixie. Secret phone call. Door slammed behind me. I tapped my fingers on the desk until Heidi reemerged a few minutes later. Okay, so my supplier's totally fucking me. Oh, good for you. No, not like that. They've rescheduled our meeting again. I need to go meet them tonight, but I already have that other meeting to attend to. What, are you sure this isn't like a trick? Nah, my supplier's just useless, such a floozy. Look, are you okay, going out and making the sale for me? Can I meet the supplier instead? The last time I tried to make a sale for you, it was, well, it didn't go so great. My supplier is very secretive. They wouldn't show if I wasn't there. Look, I feel really bad about asking you to do this after last night, but, it would be really hard to rearrange meeting my supplier. I'll give you the taser and a bat if anything seems off. You just get out of there, right? Sure, it's okay though. I'm sure I'll be fine. You showed that weirdo who was boss when you broke their arm and set fire to them, right? They won't fuck with Delilah Moonbeam again. Or that, or they would be hell-bent on revenge, I thought. I waited in the same spot as yesterday, shivering in the cool night air, as I held another wrapped book in my hands. I quickly checked my phone, which I admit broke character. Whoever I was meeting was late. I was considering leaving when a shadow appeared at the end of the alleyway. They clearly weren't the figure from yesterday. They were probably about half their height, wore a cardboard box on their head, with what I hazard to call a scary face down on it. Oh God, it's Greg. They approached me nervously. Hello, I'm Delilah Moonbeam. Ooh. Ha! I screamed as the disguised figure leapt at me, taking me by surprise. I fell against the cold floor and blacked out. I must have woken up a few minutes later. Fortunately, I didn't seem to be too badly hurt. In fact, I'm pretty certain I just fell asleep because I was tired. Delilah's hood was surprisingly pillow-like. The alley was deserted, but the book was gone. I knew it must have been some kind of lackey for the matted figure. Who knew how many more were out there that might try to hurt me? I had to get back to Heidi now. I could only hope she was already back from her meeting. I sprinted through the dark streets. They seemed deserted until I ran up against a group. A group of cloak-wearing strangers, their dark hoods hiding their faces. I screamed. They had been sent by the matted figure. I knew it. I shoved one of them, my weak little arms doing little to push them. I turned and fled the way I'd come. I needed to take a longer route, shake them off my tail. It was a long while before I realized I wasn't being pursued. I kept running anyway. I had no idea how. Usually my legs stopped working after about 5 meters. But not this time. I was terrified. I just needed to get back. I burst through the shop door. Heidi was already there, replacing the use-by dates on some of the tinned food with new stickers. Heidi! Jeez, Trixie, are you okay? Where were you? You've been back ages ago. I had to catch my breath. I was chased. I had to lose the chasers. You were... What? Trixie, what happened? Look, just go get changed. I'll keep an eye out. I shakily got out of the outfit in the office and returned to Heidi, somewhat calmer. I was attacked. Again! Someone, the person I met, they jumped me. They must have been sent by our new friend. Fucking jeez. Heidi paced around the room, stopping briefly to beat up a box of pineapple snapples out of sheer anger. And you're sure it was them? Or one of their helpers or whatever? I only now consider that there wasn't actually any proof it was one of the Man Figure's helpers. Well, no, I'm not sure. I just assumed. I mean, has this happened before? Never twice in a row. You're right. This is too weird. It must be related. Fuck's sake. She continued pacing. I was too shaken to speak. This is getting out of hand. I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. Right, I'm going to implement Eclipse Contingency. I'm torching any of the crap that doesn't look valuable and moving the rest somewhere safe so I can lay low. This Heidi seems to use anything as an excuse to torch stuff. I'll pack the junk up and burn it tomorrow. Want to lift back to your place again? I did. I need to get some sleep. I should have started doing something about Nikita, but I was way too tired. Hopefully my exhaustion would stop me from thinking too hard about the matted figure and the king in yellow. That night, I had a dream of the basement on Daffodil Lane. I was crumpled on the floor, blood stained on the fur by my side, and covered my hands. Through blurry eyes, I could make out Nikita. She was saying something to me, but her voice was too muffled and distorted to make out. She seemed smug, so no change there. After a seemingly endless monologue, she threw her hands skyward, and with a flash of white light and a splash of cold cloud spray, a white gate opened at the far end of the room. The white gate to Carcosa. I shivered as the chill rolled off Lake Holly. After giving me a last pitiful look, Nikita stepped through the gate, leaving me alone in the cold basement. For a moment, nothing happened. A strange calm came over me. This wonderful solitude was cut short, for from the white gate emerged the cloaked visage of the king in yellow. Their tattered rags billowed in the increasing wind, floating like the tentacles of some terrible deep-sea creature. They stared ahead, before peering down at me with a slow turn of their head, looking right at me, right into me. I blacked out, and when I awoke, I found myself elsewhere. Me and Heidi were hiding in her shop. I wasn't sure why at first, but as I peeked above one of the displays, I saw objects shift and move around the room, a golden mist surrounding them. On the floor lay what seemed to be a cloaked corpse. It took me a moment to recognize the shape of the matted figure. I ducked as a wrench was tossed through the air towards me by the malevolent force that had taken over the shop. I went to say something to Heidi, but before I could open my mouth, she was yanked from her hiding place by some unseen hand and pulled into the shop. I yelled and foolishly ran out of my hiding place, straight into the matted figure. I turned and ran. The figure took chase. I could hear them crashing through the shop behind me. I yelled. My foot tripped on a pile of crowbars. I fell to the floor with a horrible crunch as the figure's dark shadow bore over me. I plunged back into consciousness and awoke, screaming and shaking. My eyes darted around my room. I was alone. Everything was as it should be. I was exhausted as ever. As was my life now. After last night's dream, I was more intent than ever to simply let my problems slip from my mind. I was about to message Heidi, but I remembered she would probably prefer I called, so she could yell at me if she liked. Sup, Trixie? Hey, I was wondering if you wanted me to come down today and give you a hand. You're burning stuff, right? I like burning stuff. Excuse me, wrong person. I like burning stuff, so I'm definitely qualified for that role. Sorry to disappoint you, little Miss Arsonist, but I'm putting off Eclipse Contingency for a day. I got a court appearance to be dealing with the whole arson threat thing I did. Which I guess makes me a little Miss Arsonist. Don't tell anyone I called myself Little Miss. I have a taser. Oh, no, that's a pain. Well, have fun with that, I guess. Will do. You take care, okay? Okay, bye. Oh. She'd hung up early again. I sighed. With nothing to distract me, there was nothing else for it. I'd have to face up to Nikita. Right on cue, there was a knock at my door. Trixie Glimmersmith, open up! I gulped. Just what I needed. She was knocking pretty loud. Maybe she was planning on breaking and killing me with whatever weapon she got a hold of today. I knew the knocking would attract unwanted attention if it continued. I couldn't bring more people into this mess. Nikita was my problem to deal with. I opened the door, accepting my fate. Trixie, have you seen my cardigan anywhere? As much as I loathe to admit it, you seem to have lost it, and you've been to Daffodil Lane, haven't you, Nikita? I could tell she had. She kept sniffing as if she was dealing with some allergies. Something seemed to click in her, as if she only just remembered what she'd been doing all night. Had she totally forgotten about our fight? Well, you might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. Heh, you think you're pretty smart, don't you, Trixie? But no, I wasn't there. Idiot! Look, Nikita, I'm going to stop you. I won't let you hurt yourself. And more importantly, possibly me. Oh, Trixie, you're far too late from that. I already have the exact position of the intersection between our world and the White Gate. The book, Reaching Other Worlds, was most illuminating. The midpoint between the 3 standing stones in this county. The cottage on Daffodil Lane. I need only bide my time and wait. And then the throne will be mine. Wait for... Silence, wretch! I have already said too much. Suffice to say, my ideals have been vindicated. While you gawped at ghost hentai, I studied in the library. Your fate is of your own making, Trixie. Maybe you should just accept that I've won. I will sit on the throne, not you. But I don't want to sit on the throne. Nikita, you're not making sense. Silence! Silence, silence, silence! You read the key in yellow. You read what I have. You know what I speak is gospel. And the throne is mine. She took off, running back to wherever she came from. Not being hugely athletic, she seemed to run out of breath before the end of the hallway, where she slinked off, panting. At least this had confirmed it, and Nikita had a plan. I sighed, realizing it was up to me to stop her. What it was Nikita had said about Daffodil Lane? It said the midpoint of the 3 standing stones? Was that true? Didn't sound alright. I checked out the map on my wall. Nikita was right. The cottage on Daffodil Lane, the places it all started, was at the direct center of the standing stones. More or less, anyway. Maybe if you accounted for tectonic movements and stuff. But it was close enough. I gasped. Nikita was right. She'll need wait and... Wait and what? I realized I had no idea what she planned to do with this information. She hadn't mentioned the library. Of course Nikita was always in the library, so that was a surprise. But perhaps there was a way to stop her hidden in its thousands of books? Might be my only chance. I had to read books. I rushed straight to the library. There was no time to lose, so I shut early on a weekend. I quickly went through the shelves I thought might be relevant. Myths, local history, literature. I wanted to find the book Nikita had mentioned, Reaching Other Worlds. I'd never heard of it before, but it sounded like it would be of use to me too. Reaching Another World was Nikita's aim, after all. I found the shelf it should have been on, and there was nothing. Nikita must have come here first and taken it so that I couldn't find out how to stop her. I panicked. If she was actively trying to stop me, there was nothing I could do. Nikita was smarter than me, and driven like one possessed by her obsession with that cursed play. My eyes remained locked on the spot the book should have been. I felt my body grow numb. Was I too late? I could see her even now in my thoughts. The book ablaze as Nikita continued with her evil plotting. The gnarled hand of the king guiding her in the decaying imperial palace of Carcosa and the broken throne. I realized I was crying. And then I realized I was looking directly at the book. It was 3 places over from where it should have been. Must have been misplaced by an uncaring student or a busy librarian. Trembling, I reached for the book and softly caressed its spine. It was real. I took it from the shelf and wiped tears from my face, ashamed. Glancing at the great clock at the entrance, I realized I stood at the same spot for close to an hour. Something was horribly wrong with me. I dropped my collection down on a secluded desk. Half the stuff didn't seem all that relevant, but it was better to be thorough. I thought I'd better skip the books and work out which I had time for before I actually started reading. I wouldn't have time for all of them. I checked the clock. There were about 5 hours left in the libraries. Librarians would kick me out. Oh, we got some choices here, okay? Bluefield's History Society, President Bluefield's County Myths. Cryptids of the South. Rosefield Quarries, Bluefield History's Lake. Cursed Play, A Study of the King in Yellow. The Great Crusade, 1120 to 1123. Reaching Other Worlds, and Wilhelm Notes. Well, let's start. We'll start at the top. Bluefield County Myths seemed to be a brief rundown of some local folklore. It was pretty short, so it would probably only take about an hour to read. Cryptids of the South. I'd read Cryptids of the South before, but I thought it might be helpful. It wasn't a very long book, so it probably take an hour. Rosefield Quarry. Rosefield Quarry, Bluefield's Mysterious Lake, was all about Wilted Rose Lake. It was written in the 80s, a few years before the story of the water snake that got popular, so the back of the book didn't reference it. The book would probably only take about 2 hours to read. Okay, so that was 2 hours. So we got 1 hour, 2 hours. Cursed Play. Cursed Play. The study of a king in yellow is to be a thesis of some kind, but it definitely looked relevant. Kind of suck at reading academic text, so I knew it would probably take 3 hours for me to read, even though it was short. Okay, so 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Great Crusade. Great Crusade looked like a rather dry history book. I knew most of the stuff already. I don't know why I picked it up. It was bulky and would probably take 2 hours to read. Okay. Reaching Other Worlds. Reaching Other Worlds seemed to be the base of Dark Age grimoire written by a bird scholar at the tail end of the age. Nikita seemed set on reaching Carcosa. I thought this may help me understand if that were possible, or how she planned on achieving it. It was short and only took an hour to read. Okay, so that's a good one. And then the Wilhelm Notes. The Wilhelm Notes is a collection of notes written by an infamous Great Inquisitor Wilhelm, traitor of the Inquisition and supposed to author the original transcript of The King in Yellow. It was a pretty poor translation, and the original text was near incomprehensible to begin with, so despite its short length, reading this would have about 3 hours. Oh gosh. Okay, so we have 5 hours total. So we definitely need to read Reaching Other Worlds. So we'll read that first. Reaching Other Worlds. Endless worlds weave and twist through the reality, unreality, and the forbidden place between. Only at the points where these strings draw close can one pass through to the other side. A powerful psychic beacon is required to pull the two worlds taut and intertwine them for long enough for a crossing. Bleakwind Spire is said to be the brightest of these beacons, at least on our world, but it is in current ruined state and is useless. The carrion crows of Blackwood of Brennenburg use their own natural psychic influence to shield themselves from the horrors of Brennenburg succession wars. For the planewalkers of Aboneth, the ancient times powerful psychic crystals were commonly used in pairs. Singularly, they could bind the worlds, but paired would nullify each other, preventing others from traveling to or from the area. It is said that how the Court of Despair remained hidden forever in their cathedral teeth. I gasped. A librarian shushed me. I knew Nikita wanted to reach the Carcosa, but now I had not realized quite how close she might be. All these materials were easy to acquire except for the psychic crystals. But now I knew where Tabby's missing crystal was. Nikita had taken it. I'd always assumed they were phony glass toys, but now the second crystal would create dissonance with the first. If I could just get a hold of one, I could prevent Nikita's ritual from working. I began a hurling message to Tabby. Hey, Tabby, you there? Hi, Trix. Got a spare psychic crystal? I have bad energies and it might help me? You don't need to end everything with a question mark. Yeah, though, you could borrow one. My energies are balanced right now, and the moon's eye is staying closed for a while, so I don't need to stop it watching me. I can slide it under your door if you want. I'm going out for a few days to stargaze in the Isle of Wight and talk to some sheep friends. Yes, please. Sorry, Tabby, I better get back to work. Thank you so much. Talk to you when you're back? I put my phone away, checking for a response. There was no time right now, but at least I was making some progress. Things didn't seem as hopeless. I checked the clock. There's about 4 hours left and the librarians kicked me out. Alright, so So I can read either Cursed Play or Wilhelm Notes. Either one is going to take me 3 hours, but I think both of those are going to be important. But I can only read one of them. Let's do the Wilhelm Notes. The Wilhelm Notes began when I led a small number of the first chapter, the Order of Mercy, to that cursed chapel outside Bluefield's town. In the ensuing fight against the cultists of Yellow Eye, I was wounded, a pitchfork to my side. I stumbled away from the battle, blood staining my purple robes a dark brown. I found myself facing one of the site's many altars. Emblazoned on it, the yellow sign. As I left consciousness, the yellow sign still staring into me, I slipped into somewhere dark. When I first saw Carcosa, its rotting state, I knew I had glimpsed an unimaginable terror. I walked the streets of that city for decades, centuries even. From the top of the Imperial Palace to the deepest depths of the Twilight Quarter, where abominations long forgotten crumble to dust underneath the perpetual darkness of Lake Hale. It was a city drenched in evil. When at last I returned to consciousness, I awoke in a pile of bodies and presumed dead. I dragged myself away from the terrible place and made my escape to the woods. I would later return with the 4th chapter, the Order of Retribution and Purification, and burn alive each of the cultists. I foolishly believed this would be the end of the whispers in my head. Still, they continued. Dismayed, I returned to my home and inflicted punishment on myself for this heresy. But when the voices remained, I gave into my weakness and listened. Ooh. I finally realized what has been whispered to me and was filled with a manic intent to lay it to parchment. The words flowed into my mind and onto the page. For 3 days I wrote without rest, food, or breath. When finally the manuscript was completed, I bound it in preserved snakeskin, the only remains of that ancient people. I looked upon my work, seeing it with my own eyes for the first time. I had written the King in Yellow. Later, a gift was presented to me. The Mask of the Pale Servant, one eye looking out to the future, and the other blinded with the first ruby to be mined from the quarry that would become the Twilight Quarter, and forced only to remember the past. A white, shiny-like mask inlaid with gold, mined from the great moon of Carcosa. It was terrible to behold, for I knew who had delivered it to me. Whispers from the king tell me that they who possess the mask are blessed to walk his path, and claim the broken throne for themselves. The mask was lost to me, stolen. Mercy on the wretch who finds it. I thought of Heidi's mask. I would need to see it in person again to be sure, but the description was certainly familiar. I checked the clock. There was about an hour left before the librarians kicked me out. Okay, so I'll read the history book. Bluefields County History Society presents Bluefield County Myths. North Acres in the Dark Age. Like much of the country, Ovington suffered terribly from the famines brought on by the Dark Age. Their troubles were short-lived, however, after the arrival of a strange guest. Not much is known about the mysterious visitor, but the locals supposedly used their help to contact a strange and ancient entity of the woods, the Antlered Tree. After this, their woes were no more, and they waited out the end of the Dark Ages in comparative comfort, a rare occurrence in those terrible times. Did the Antlered Tree bless the villagers of Ovington with a successful harvest? Unlikely, given the village imported all of its food. Did it simply gift them with food? Maybe. Was this entity simply a story to cover up Ovington's true evil, preying on travelers and raiding nearby towns? Probably, according to most scholars. But even so, the area remains shrouded in secrets. Perhaps there's more to it than meets the eye. Tale of the Man and the Witches. A local man wished more than anything to be beautiful and strong, so that he could woo local damsels. He sought out the Salt Sisters of Parsnip, but the witches only laughed and cast a cruel spell upon him. The witches then summoned evil void race to chase the man away into the wilderness, where he succumbed to the witch's terrible hex. Some say this man would go on to become the terrifying Mr. Sprongy. But this is obviously untrue, as Mr. Sprongy is way too fucked up to be in a silly kid story. The Screaming Sewers of Bluefieldstown. Bluefieldstown was briefly re-established as the administrative center of the county under Brandenburg Dynasty for several years, while Ludden was rebuilt after the Inheritance War. Several buildings from this period remain, sporting classic Brandenburg architecture, the town hall, gallery, and flower gardens being particularly distinctive examples. Of course, not all of the emperor's influence on the town was positive. Many rebellious locals were dragged into the city's dungeons during his brief reign here. Screams and wails were said to emanate from the town's sewer system, as his terrible torturers pried the poor prisoners for information, or sometimes merely for fun. Shrouded in the mystery, the dungeons were eventually unearthed in 1956, but were soon sealed with concrete. The council did not give a reason why, but we can assume they were structurally weakness beneath the town. Though some say on cold winter's nights, screams still emanate from underground, lonely streets. The King in Yellow. The infamous Wilhelmsheim was said to have first penned the King in Yellow in a manor just outside Bluefieldstown. The manor burnt down in the late 1800s, so any evidence of this has since been destroyed. Plays ties to the county do not end here. Copies of the play are found more frequently here than anywhere else across the world, with a notable incident being discovered in Bluebell University's library. The dean, a superstitious fellow, ordered it burnt unopened when a student brought it to him. Said student was also expelled under mysterious circumstances. The dean was fired soon after, apparently for the unfair expulsion. The student disappeared before they could be reinducted into their course. It was an interesting read, but not a particularly helpful one. No way that would the dean expel Nikita. She was the only thing keeping us in the league tables. Besides, at this point, I don't think Nikita would care. I realized I'd run out of time. I quickly put the books away and left. I ended up back in my room. I just needed to sleep. This week was killing me. When was the last time I had slept properly? I walked through my door and almost tripped over something. There was a little velvet bag on the floor. Someone had slipped under my door. Oh, great. Has Nikita been sneaking anthrax in my room or something? I nervously picked up the bag. I was relieved to feel a hard crystal inside. It must be Tabby's psychic crystal. Oh, thank you, Tabby. You're a lifesaver. Possibly literally. I carefully put the crystal in my bag. It might be the only thing that could help me. I was going to have some noodles to eat, but I couldn't get the packet open without scissors thanks to my weak little arms. I had no idea where my scissors had gone. I probably put them in my bag and lost them while I was walking around or something. In the end, I had just eat crisps. This week was really taking a toll on my diet. I needed time to digest what I had read. I was too tired to do anything practical and deal with Nikita tonight. No doubt she was slicking around the university or holed up in her room plotting. That night, there were no dreams. There was only darkness. I woke up as tired as ever, and I wanted to check the internet for news, convinced I'd find a photograph of a disheveled Nikita being bundled into a police van after committing some atrocity in the name of the broken throne. Before I could switch on my laptop or something strange caught my eye. On my bedroom wall was a scribbled pencil drawing of what seemed to be Nikita. Above her, two floating skulls surrounded by a cloud. Had I drawn this? My room didn't look like it had been broken into, and it was my art style, not that I had one. I realized I was getting dangerously unhinged. I had to stop Nikita. Only then could I start to recover. Fortunately, it looked like Nikita hadn't been arrested for any terrible crimes. Unfortunately, this means she was still my problem alone. Yesterday, Nikita had, well, not admitted to being a villain, but it was fairly obvious she had been. I was pretty sure she wanted to open the portal to the white gate of Heidi in that cursed basement. I needed to know if she had done anything there. Maybe I could find a way to stop her. I ate some sugar flakes and got ready for another long walk to Daffodil Lane. Okay, that's a good stopping spot for this episode, and I'll catch you everyone next time on the testimony of Trixie Glimmersmith.